1761 in Isle of Wight, Virginia. He was the youngest of 6 children born. He was the youngest. He was the youngest of 6 children born of Sophia Almond and William Rand. But first, let me tell you a little bit about his father, William Rand. William Rand was born in England in 1705, where he grew to become a master builder. He was invited over from England, by the Virginia government, to help build some of the public buildings in Williamsburg. Instead of actually building them, he was asked to mentor and supervise the construction of the buildings, such as the Capitol, the magazine, the public hospital, the courthouse, and the jail, spelled G-A-O-L. While he was in the colonies, his first wife died in England, and William married 35-year-old Sophia Almond, who was recently widowed. William Rand died in 1771 when Walter was 10 years old, and Walter's mother, Sophia, married her 3rd husband the next year. Jordan and I are now going to play the funeral march from Rosslyn Castle in remembrance of William Rand. Continental Army by Captain Thomas Wills when he was 15, just a few months short of being 16. The muster and payrolls of the Virginia War Records and the National Archives show that on January 26, 1777, he enlisted into the 15th Virginia Regiment on foot, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel James Innes. Because of his age, he was too young to be a soldier, so he instead drummed for the 15th Virginia Regiment. This is what it'd be like.
Good day to you, sir.
Good day, sir.
What is your purpose here today?
I would like to enlist into the Continental Army, sir.
I see. Your name?
Walter Rand.
Age?
15.
Oh, 15. You're not quite old enough to shoulder a musket yet. So I'm going to put you down as a drummer.
Yes, sir.
In this recital, I wanted to be certain that he was actually a drummer during his enlistment, because it seemed too good to be true. Taking a deeper look into his pension records, the following information was provided. Side note, for people who don't know what a pension is a fixed sum to be paid regularly to a person following retirement from service. Pensions also become available to widows. From the Wake County Revolutionary War pension records, A. William Crittenden stated that he, William Crittenden, served in the Revolutionary War in the Virginia Continental Line, and that while in said service, he knew one Walter Rand, who was in the same service and served in the same regiment with him, and that he was a drummer in said service, and that they served together 12 months or more. Also, Walter's record, as found in the papers on file in the Revolutionary War claims for pension, states, while a resident of Isle of Wight County, Virginia, at age 16, Walter Rand enlisted and served in the Virginia troops as drummer. I'm now going to honor Walter Rand by playing Ned Kendall's, even though it's technically a Civil War tune. In late August 1777, General George Washington and 20,000 troops had their eye on General Sir William Howe's 17,000 troops near Newark, Delaware. Washington was not able to accurately gauge the strength of the opposing forces and abandoned a defense encampment along the Red Clay Creek to deploy against the British at Chad's Ford. This site was important as it was the most direct passage across the Brandywine River on the road from Baltimore to Philadelphia.
Captain Williams. It's Will, sir.
Yes, of course, Captain Williams. I am not able to accurately gauge the strength of the opposing forces.
Yes, sir.
We should abandon this encampment along the Red Clay Creek to deploy against the British at Chad's Fort.
Yes, sir.
This site is important, as it is the most direct passage across the Brandywine River on the road from Baltimore to Philadelphia.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Strategically placing various divisions along the north and south fords, Washington was confident that the area was secure. General Howe, who had better information about the area than Washington, had no intention of mounting a full-scale frontal attack against the prepared American defenses. He instead employed a flanking maneuver of about 5,000 men to attack the colonists' left wing. The commander of this regiment was Wilhelm von Niefausen, a commander of the Hessian mercenaries. The remainder of General Howe's troops, under the command of Charles Lord Cornwallis, marched north, then east to two forts that Washington had overlooked, then marched south to flank the American troops. The first shots were fired on September 11, 1777, due to poor scouting and receiving contradictory reports about the British troop movements. Washington continued to believe that the main force was moving to attack at Chad's Ford.
Washington, reports from the north.
Oh yes, cannons from the east.
General Washington.
More reports, sir, just came in.
Light forces from the north.
Reports from the south, sir.
Indeed. Oh yes, I see now.
General Howe's group of soldiers crushed the colonists' right wing, and Washington had to retreat into the capital, Philadelphia. Washington had committed a serious error in leaving his right flank wide open and nearly brought his army's annihilation, had it not been for the divisions which fought for enough time for retreat. There were 300 American casualties, 400 captured, and 600 wounded. Among the wounded was Walter Rand, who was shot in the leg by a British soldier. Great.
Shakespeare!
Only he didn't say Shakespeare. He would carry that bullet to his grave. Even after getting shot, he still served until the end of the war. Among the American wounded was Marquis de Lafayette, who managed to organize the orderly retreat. Now, I will play Marquis Granby's March because Marquis de Lafayette was amazing. After the Battle of Brandywine, Walter was now old enough to carry a musket and defend his home.
Give me that drum. You're being promoted.
Yes, sir.
You're needed on the front lines.
On January 1st, 1778, a year into his service, Walter was now promoted to the rank of sergeant. His payment as sergeant was $8 or £2 and 8 shillings sterling per month. During the winter of 1777 and 1778, General George Washington sought quarters for his men. With winter almost setting in, the prospects for campaigning greatly diminished. Washington selected Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, 20 miles northwest of Philadelphia, because it was a more secure location, far enough from the threat of British surprise attacks. Undernourished, poor-clothed, and living in crowded, damp quarters, the army was ravaged by sickness and disease. Typhoid, typhus, smallpox, dysentery, and pneumonia were among the numerous diseases that thrived in the camp during that winter. These diseases, along with malnutrition and exposure to the freezing temperatures and snow, contributed to the 2,500 soldiers that died by the end of the winter. Although Washington repeatedly petitioned for relief and supplies, the Continental Congress was unable to provide it, and the soldiers continued to suffer. Finally, by the end of February, there were full adequate supplies flowing throughout the camp after Congress gave full support to monetarily fund the supply lines of the Army. An old play tune that many of my fellow corps members struggled to enjoy playing. So much so, it is that they were at Valley Forge, Luxembourg's March. According to the muster roll, Walter Wren arrived at Valley Forge in March 1778. Upon further research of my ancestry, I discovered that Walter Wren was not the only relative of mine to be at Valley Forge. John Wisdom, my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, which is my dad's dad, was also there. At this time, I don't have any details on what John was in, but I'm pretty certain that they didn't know they would one day be related.
What is your name?
John Wisdom.
Your new name is Ill-Faced Vile Worm.
Thou art to boil, a plague sore,
Thou art a toad, ugly and venomous.
lump of foul deformity. Bolting hutch of beastliness.
You beetle-headed flap-eared knave.
You are as a candle, the better burned out.
Thou art pigeon liver and lack gall.
During Walter's stay at Valley Forge, he grew very ill and couldn't leave with his regiment until he was healthy. The 15th Virginia Regiment set foot to New York without him. Walter was sick for 2 months, but when he got better, he sent out with a small group to headed to New York. The roll calls for July 13th, 1778 at Paramus, New York, and roll calls for August 4th, 1778 at White Plains, New York, state that he was sick at Valley Forge, not knowing at the time that he was on his way. On September 1st, 1778, he was demoted to private. No reason was given for his demotion, but it may have been to being ill. Now, let's see, Nicholas, I think Kyle, and Bethany, and Allie, and Avery are going to come up with me and play York March into 1st of September. Until October 1778, he was in the 15th Virginia Regiment, thus serving 1 year and 8 months in the organization. It is stated that the 15th Virginia Regiment was a part of William Whitford's brigade, commanded by Major General Nathaniel Greene. This brigade participated in many battles during the course of the war. The October and November roll calls of 1778 stated that Walter was in the 11th and 15th Virginia Regiment. Colonel Daniel Morgan was commander, Captain Thomas Wills and Lieutenant Luke Cannon was second in command, with 3 sergeants, 3 corporals, 2 fifes and drummers, and 40 privates, with Walter being one of them. In December 1778, the 15th Virginia Regiment merged with the 11th Virginia Regiment, but this only lasted for 5 months, when the 11th seemed to have merged with the 5th Virginia Regiment. The total men in both of these regiments combined, technically 3, was 379 troops. All this data is found in the Library of Congress. During Walter's entire enlistment, he had many commanders, being in the 15th, 11th, and 5th regiments. The commanders' names were Colonel Daniel Morgan, Major Gustavus B. Wallace, Colonel Abraham Buford, and Colonel William Russell. The one name that really stands out more than any of the names listed is Colonel Daniel Morgan. On December 3rd, 1780, General Daniel Morgan reported for duty to General Nathaniel Greene's headquarters at Charlotte, North Carolina. General Greene decided that his weak army was unable to meet the British in a stand-up fight, so he divided his army and sent them with General Morgan to join up with the Buster Militia of North Carolina and take command of them. General Morgan left with 400 men and returned with around 700, but when he returned to duty, General Greene was already at the war with the British at Cowpens. Morgan had to scurry down to Cowpens, South Carolina, to help win a decisive victory. For a fun little fact, I did my flag interpretation on the Cowpens flag, so this is pretty cool. In January 1780, Walter Rand's enlistment was expired, and he was honorably discharged. His final payout appears in the book under the following heading: "The list of soldiers of the Virginia Continental Establishment who have received certificates for the balance of their full pay agreeable to an act of Assembly passed November session 1781. The note reads, Walter Rand, Soldier Infantry, balance of full pay received September 27, 1783. £6, 18 shillings, and 6 pence. It is very likely that he saw General George Washington, Nathaniel Greene, and many other great commanders during his military service. At the end of the war, on February 13, 1783, 22-year-old Walter Rand married 18-year-old Mary Parker. There were rumors that Walter's stepfather had squandered all the inheritance left by his father, William Rand. So Walter was very poor. It may not have been a good idea to start a family with no money. We'll now play the Village Volunteer Fife and Drum Corps version of Empty Pockets. After Walter's mother died in 1785, Walter and Mary left to Wake County, North Carolina, where Walter's older brother John left his plantation for Walter and Mary, giving them a very good start in life. Walter and Mary had 8 children: John, Elizabeth, William, Parker, Nathaniel, who was named after General Nathaniel Greene, Harrison, Mosley, and Walter Jr. Sadly, Walter Jr. didn't survive very long after birth. Walter Rand expanded his plantation and later named it the Rand Mill. The mill burned in the early 20th century but the Mill Lake still remains and is operated by the city of Raleigh as a reservoir. Walter was a justice of the peace to his death and was once more elected a member of the legislature. He died at age 52 in 1812, and his wife never remarried, surviving him for 32 years, passing in 1844 at the age 79. Here lies Walter Rand, youngest son of William and Sophia Rand, born in Isle of Wight County, Virginia, April 1761. He served 3 years in the Revolutionary War and was honorably discharged. Died December 12, 1812, in the 52nd year of his age. Now, as a grand finale, I would like to call up Kyle Light to play a tune that I wrote, Han Solo. Yes, more in the Star Wars movie that comes out this year. Are there any questions? Yes.
Where did you get all this information?
Well, mostly from my dad, but I think he got it from just records from the internet, you know, like from Valley Forge. You can go on their website, figure out who's in there and stuff, figure out information from there, but I don't know. Yes.
How did you find out who your grandfather was?
And I found out where my grandfather was. Well, again, my dad, he was on Ancestry.com, and he was trying to figure out more about our ancestry. And so he went all the way up to my times 6 great-grandfather, and then he found out that it was Walter Rand. And all that information I just said is how he got the information about it.
Is there a blooper reel?
Is there a blooper reel? See, I did think about that, but I didn't know if I had enough time, but we can piece together one maybe next week or something like that. So, are there any more questions? Yes.
Do you know if your family members fought in the Union or the...
Yes, well, we have, sorry, the question was, do I have any ancestors that were in the Civil War? Now, I do have one that I don't recall his name, but he was a doctor in the Civil War, and he would cut off people's legs and stuff.
His name was Walter Rand Jr.
That's what his name was? Walter Rand Jr., there you go.
Really?
Yes.
Union or Confederate?
Huh?
Union or Confederate?
Confederate. Are there any more questions? Yes.
All right, additional ones. When you joined, and how long did you get to Senior Corps and Freshmen?
I joined in late August 2011, and I think I promoted to Senior Corps either 1 year or 2 years after that. Huh?
Moorpark 2013.
Yeah, Moorpark 2013. That was my first Senior Corps performance, and November 2013 to June 2015. Yes.